I was holding my newborn for the first time when my mother-in-law told the doctor I was unfit to take her home. My daughter was barely 6 hours old, still wrapped in that pink hospital blanket, when Diane walked into my recovery room with a woman in a blazer and told Dr. Patel that I had a history of mental instability. The words hit me like ice water. I pulled my baby closer to my chest and felt my stitches pull against my skin. My husband Kevin stood frozen by the window, his mouth hanging open while his mother smiled at me with teeth like a shark. The woman in the blazer introduced herself as a social worker and asked if she could speak with me privately. I looked at Kevin for help. He looked at the floor. Diane had hated me since the day Kevin proposed. She told him I was after his money, even though I made more than him when we met. She told his family I was controlling him, isolating him, even though she was the one who demanded he call her every single night. When I got pregnant, she cried at the announcement dinner and said she wasn't ready to be a grandmother. She called my morning sickness dramatic. She told Kevin the baby might not even be his. I thought having the baby would change things. I thought holding her granddaughter would finally soften whatever sharp thing lived inside her chest. I was so incredibly wrong. The social worker pulled out a folder and started reading from a report. According to this, you were hospitalized for depression 8 years ago. I nodded slowly because it was true. I was 21 and my father had just died. I spent 3 weeks in an outpatient program, took medication for a year, and hadn't had a single episode since. Diane leaned forward with fake concern painted across her face. She told Dr. Patel that I'd been acting erratic throughout the pregnancy, that I'd threatened to hurt myself, that Kevin was terrified but too scared to speak up. Every single word was a lie. I looked at my husband again. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. My hands started shaking so badly I was afraid I might drop my daughter. But it got worse. The social worker said that based on the report filed by a concerned family member, she had to conduct an evaluation before I could be discharged with my baby. Diane had called Child Protective Services before I'd even finished giving birth. She'd timed it perfectly. I asked Kevin to say something, to tell them none of this was true, to defend his wife and his child. He opened his mouth. Diane cut him off. Honey, you know this is for the best. She's not well. You've seen the signs. Kevin's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He didn't fight for me. He stood there like a coward while his mother tried to take my daughter away. The social worker asked me to hand the baby to a nurse while she completed her assessment. My arms locked around my daughter like steel bars. I should have known this was coming. 3 days earlier, I'd found something on Kevin's phone while he was in the shower. A text thread between him and Diane that made my blood run cold. She'd written, "Just let me handle the CPS call. You stay out of it so your hands are clean. Once she's declared unfit, we petition for emergency custody. I'll raise the baby properly while you figure out what to do with her." Kevin's response was a single thumbs up emoji. I'd screenshotted the entire conversation and sent it to myself before putting his phone back exactly where I found it. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I called my older sister instead, and she called a lawyer. I'd spent the last 3 days preparing for exactly this moment while pretending everything was fine. The social worker reached for my daughter again. That's when my sister Bria walked through the door with a woman in a gray suit behind her. The woman introduced herself as my attorney and handed a folder to Dr. Patel. Inside were my complete psychiatric records showing I'd been stable and unmedicated for over 7 years. Alongside them was a letter from my current therapist confirming I posed no risk to myself or anyone else. And beneath all of that were the screenshots from Kevin's phone. The social worker's face changed as she read them. Diane's smile finally cracked. My attorney looked directly at her and said that filing a false CPS report was a crime in this state, and that conspiracy to commit custodial interference carried up to 5 years in prison. Diane grabbed Kevin's arm. "Tell them this is a misunderstanding." Kevin looked at me for the first time since his mother walked in. His eyes were wet. His lip was trembling, but I didn't feel sorry for him. I felt nothing at all. He opened his mouth to speak, but my attorney cut him off. She told the social worker that we'd be filing a formal complaint and pursuing charges against both Diane and Kevin for conspiracy. She told Dr. Patel that I was to be discharged with my daughter immediately, and that no one from the Reynolds family was to have contact with either of us without my explicit written consent. Diane started screaming that I was brainwashing everyone, that Kevin would never let me take his child, that she had rights as a grandmother. Security arrived within 2 minutes. They escorted her out of the building while she screamed my name down the hallway. Kevin tried to follow me as I was wheeled to the discharge area. I held up my hand without looking at him. Diane was charged with filing a false report and spent 4 months awaiting trial. Kevin signed the divorce papers without contesting anything after my lawyer showed him what discovery would uncover. I got full custody, the house, and a restraining order that covers both of them. My daughter is 11 months old now and has never met her paternal grandmother. She never will.